Want more Drupaleasy insight? Go to drupaleasy.com/training.
Hello, my name is Mike Anello, and welcome to another Drupaleasy screencast. In today's screencast, I'm going to be presenting X Marks the Spot, a beginner's guide to online maps in Drupal. Now, the first part of this screencast, I'm just going to run through some slides and kind of set the table for what I'm going to be doing. And the second part of the screencast, I will actually be walking through the demonstration on how to put all of this stuff together. So, as we know, Drupal is really good at collecting data, allowing users to add content to a website. Now, that content can be added through nodes, user profiles, comments, terms, various entities. If you've been using Drupal for any length of time, you know that Drupal is extremely flexible at how it allows content to be added. Some content is best displayed graphically, and that's what we're going to focus on today. A lot of times when you're adding address data to a map, address data to a website, it's useful sometimes to see it in a list, to see, 1, 2, 3 Main Street, but which one's really more valuable? Is it more valuable to see a list of addresses like this? I would argue that in most cases, it's probably more valuable to display those addresses on a map. And not a static map, but an interactive Google Maps style map that you can zoom in on and pan and get directions from. It provides a really rich experience for the end users. So luckily for us, maps like this are relatively easy to do in Drupal if you know the right combination of modules. Now, over the years, there have been various modules that have provided mapping functionality in Drupal. What I'm going to demonstrate today is what I believe to kind of be the modern way of creating online maps in Drupal 7. So what are we going to use to make this happen today? First of all, we're going to use the address field module. Now, this module provides a Drupal field for collecting address data. And the interesting thing about the address field module is that depending on the country selected, the format of the address field changes. So in the United States, obviously we have cities, states, and zip codes. But in Canada, I believe it would show us cities, provinces, and postal codes. So the nomenclature is just a little bit different, and the module actually accounts for that and changes labels and exposes different fields depending on the country selected. The Geocoder module is one of two modules that's going to be providing kind of some behind-the-scenes work for us. What this module does is take address information as entered into an address field and sends that address information out to a third-party geocoding service, normally free unless you're doing a whole lot of geocoding. And the geocoding service will return a latitude and longitude for that address. So this is basically, this module works behind the scenes, takes data from address field, converts it to a latitude and longitude, and then what do we do with that latitude and longitude? We store it in a geofield. So the Geofield module provides yet another Drupal field type to store location data. Now for today's demonstration, we're just going to be storing points. An address is a single point on a map. But the Geofield module also supports storing lines, so you could actually store a path on a map, as well as polygons, so you can actually store an area on a map, like a town or a state or a province or a country for that matter. Another one of the behind-the-scenes modules that we have to install is called GeoPHP. This integrates with the GeoPHP library, which is another open source project. And the the GeoPHP library provides geospatial math. So the Geofield module requires this, and this module just provides some back-end specialized calculations. And then finally, we're going to look at the leaflet module. Now, out of the box, the Geofield module provides, it actually includes another module called Geofield Map, which outputs just Google Maps. The leaflet module provides all different kinds of maps. It does output Google Maps, but it also outputs OpenStreetMaps as well as I think there's about 15 or 20 various base layers that we can use with the leaflet module. Now, the leaflet library is yet another open source project, and it does a lot more than changing just the base layer. We're only going to look at that part of it today, but the leaflet JavaScript mapping library is really flexible and lightweight and is kind of the new hotness for mapping online. So the demonstration I'm going to show you in a few minutes is really going to walk us through how all of these modules fit together. So I'm going to give you a brief overview now, and then in a minute we're going to jump into actually building our site. So the first thing we have to do is collect the address data. So we're going to create a new content type, and we're going to add an address field to it using the address field module. Data entered into the address field is going to be geocoded into latitude and longitudes and stored in a second field supplied by the Geofield module. Now at this point, our entry is complete because we can now add address data to a node, have that data automatically converted into latitude and longitude, and store those latitude and longitudes using the Geofield module. But how do we want to display that? Well, luckily, like I said earlier, the Geofield module comes with a submodule called Geofield Map. And this provides a display formatter for Geofield. So rather than just outputting a numerical latitude and longitude, we're going to leverage the Geofield Map module to output a map with the latitude and longitude for the address entered displayed on that map as a point. The next logical step is, obviously, if we start adding a bunch of nodes with address data, we might want to see all of those nodes on a single map. Well, we can do that with views and the Geofield Map module. The Geofield Map module provides a views formatter to output location data on a map from within views. And then the final step in the demonstration is we're going to swap out that Geofield Map module for the leaflet module. And that will allow us to display different types of maps using the exact same data. So for the example, I'm getting ahead of myself. So what do you need to know to follow this whole presentation? Well, not a whole lot. You really need to have a solid understanding of Drupal fundamentals. I call them the big five, and that's content types, taxonomy, menus, blocks, regions, themes, and users, roles, and permissions. You need to have some familiarity with the views module, as well as the ability to download, install, and enable contributed modules. So we're going to go ahead and build a site that displays various Drupal camp locations on a map. We're going to create a new content type called Drupal camp. We're going to add an address field to it and a geo field to it, and go through all the steps to configure that content type to display the address information on a map. Alrighty, everybody ready? Let's do it. What we have here is a standard Drupal 7 install along with some commonly used contributed modules that I like to have on pretty much every site that I build. I have the admin menu installed. I have the environment indicator module installed, which makes this thing red, the module filter module, and some other commonly used modules that just kind of make the interface a little bit nicer and what I'm used to. So the first thing we need to do is create a Drupal camp content type so that content authors can add Drupal camp nodes to the website. And as part of that, we're going to add the address field to the content type. In order to add the address field, we actually have to enable the address field module. So let's go to our modules page and find the address field module. That's this one right here. And click to enable. All right, so then once that is enabled, we'll go to Structure, Content Types, and we're going to go ahead and add a new content type and call it Drupal Camp. Use this to add new Drupal camps to the site. And we'll leave all the default values. Click Save and Add Fields. And as I mentioned, we want to add an address field. So we're going to call this the location field. And when we enable the address field content type, you'll see that we have a new field type or when we enable the address field module, you'll see that we have a new field type called postal address. So we're going to select that and click Save. And there's no field level setting, so we can go ahead and click Save. And we're going to go ahead and make that a required field. Available countries. For now, we'll just focus on, well, here, what I'll do just to demonstrate the address field module a little bit, I will select Canada, if I can find it, and the US. Holding down Control. So I have Canada and the US both selected. Let's confirm that. There we go. And for format handlers, we want to display a country-specific address form. And we do want to include the name. So if the Drupal camp's being held at a hotel or being held at a college, we actually can capture the name of that college in addition to its address as part of the address field module. Default value we'll leave blank, and we're only going to collect one address per Drupal camp. So go ahead and click Save. So now we should be able to go to Content, Add Content, and add a new Drupal camp. And let's go ahead and add a couple, or we'll start with just one for now. Florida Drupal Camp 2014. It's going to be awesome. And the full name, this is going to take place at Florida Technical College. And its address is 12,900 Challenger Parkway in Orlando, Florida, 32826. Now, if for some reason this camp, not for some reason, but if Florida was suddenly part of Canada, and we switch to Canada, watch what happens to these fields down here when I make this switch to Canada. The state changes to province. So this is kind of the dynamic nature of the address field module to automatically reconfigure the fields based on the country selected. So we'll set that to Florida and click Save. Okay, so all we've done at this point is created a brand new content type, added an address field to it to collect the address as well as the name of the camp and the body. So we can go ahead and add as many camp nodes as we want at this point, but it's not going to do much. This is pretty much all we're going to be able to display. So in the next section, I'm going to demonstrate how to use the Geocoder and Geofield module to automatically translate this into a latitude and longitude. Be right back. Okay, in this next section, we're going to add the Geofield module so that we can add a new geofield to our content type to store a latitude and longitude associated with this address. Where are we going to get that latitude and longitude? Well, we're going to use the Geocoder module to automatically call out to a third-party service to convert all addresses added for Drupal camps into latitudes and longitudes. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, we're going to go back to our modules page, and this time we're going to enable two modules. We're going to enable our Geofield module as well as our Geocoder module. And you can see that both the Geofield and Geocoder modules require GeoPHP, so we might as well go ahead and just enable that one as well right now. Click Save Configuration. Okay, so let's go back to our content type and make the modifications there. So we're going to go to Structure, Content Types, Drupal Camp, Manage Fields. The reason we have to go back to Manage Fields is because we need to add a second location field, this time one to store the latitude and longitude. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to add a new field. And normally what I do is I choose the label being the same as the address field, only I tack a lat long on the end of it. So we have a location field that stores the address data, the 123 Main Street, and now we're going to add a second field, the location lat long, that stores the latitude and longitude. For the field type, we're going to select Geofield, graciously provided by the Geofield module. And then for the widget, because we enabled the Geocoder module, we have this option, geocode from another field. Now, if we didn't have the Geocoder module enabled, we could enter in the latitude and longitude ourselves, either using well-known text, which is a special format for geospatial data, or we can directly enter a latitude and longitude into two text fields. But we're going to take advantage of the fact that we have the Geocoder module installed and enabled, and we have another field on this content type where we already have the address data. So we're going to select that and click Save. And storage backend, we're just going to stick with default. Now the idea behind this field, we're never going to populate the latitude and longitude field directly. We're going to let the Geocoder field do it for us. So the Geocoder field is basically going to ask us, where is the address information that I'm going to turn into a latitude and longitude? Well, the address information is in the location field, which is the address field that we added earlier. So we're going to geocode address data from the location field and store that latitude and longitude in the location lat long field. Which geocoder do we want to use? There's various options here. In this case, we're just going to stick with Google Geocoder. There are some terms of service with Google Geocoder. You're limited to 2,500 requests for a 24-hour period. It does work for most countries, though. Not all of them, but a lot of countries. And there are business plans available where you can pay Google some money and you can geocode to your heart's content, way more than 2,500 per 24 hours. But for this demonstration, Google Geocoder will be fine. Now there's some additional settings down here which we're not going to get into, but depending on what type of data you want to geocode, some of these configuration options might be appropriate. And we're just going to go ahead and come down to the bottom, and because we're only collecting one address per content type, or one address per Drupal camp, we only need to store one latitude-longitude pair per Drupal camp as well. So we'll go ahead and click Save Settings. So now in our Drupal camp content type, we have the standard title and body fields. We have the location field, where we actually use the address field module, where we can type in the physical postal address. And then we have the latitude and longitude field. And the Geocoder module is going to populate this for us automatically from the entered postal address. So let's see how that works. Let's add another Drupal camp. So we're going to go back to Content, Add Content, Drupal camp. And this time, let's add the 2014 Drupal Camp St. Louis under the arch. And that's going to take place at Washington University in the United States. The address is 7425 Forsyth Boulevard in the basement. That takes place in University City in Missouri. And the zip code there is 63105. You can see I've been practicing this a little bit because my autocompletes are working. So at this point, as you can see, we don't see the location lat long field displayed. The module is smart enough, or the field is smart enough, that when it's being geocoded from another field, it hides itself. So all we see is the address field. But when we click Save, the Geocoder module is going to take over and basically send this information to the Google Geocoder, and the Google Geocoder is going to send back latitude and longitude, which is then going to be stored in that location lat long field. So that will all happen right now when I click Save. And you can see it comes right back, location lat long. We actually have a point with a latitude and longitude. Now, at no time did we enter this. This is returned from the Geocoder module from its query to the Google Geocoder. Okay, so in the next section, we're actually going to see how to display this point on a map. Well, let me do one more thing before I close this section out. Let me go back to content, because if we look at Florida Drupal camp, you'll see we still don't have a latitude and longitude because we added this node before the Geocoder module was installed. So in order to go ahead and geocode this address, all we have to do is edit and save. And the Geocoder module did its job, and we now have a latitude and longitude for this camp as well. Alrighty, so coming up next, we're going to enable the Geofield Map module and display these camps on a map. Alrighty, in this section, we're going to utilize the Geofield Map module in order to display the location lat long for each Drupal camp on a map, instead of just displaying the numeric values of the latitude and longitude. Now, the Geofield Map module simply provides a formatter for a geofield. So let's see how that works. The first thing we need to do, obviously, is to enable the Geofield Map module. So back to the modules page we go. And we're going to go ahead and enable the Geofield Map module. Alrighty, so let's go back to our content type, structure, content types, Drupal camp. And this time we're going to go to manage display because we want to change the way the location lat long field is displayed. So currently, the location lat long field is displayed as well-known text. Now, well-known text is quite simply, it's a markup language for representing various objects on a map. It's not necessarily a Drupal thing, it's more of a geospatial thing. But now that we have the Geofield Map module enabled, one of our options is Geofield Map. So you'll see there's all kinds of different ways to display latitude and longitudes, but in this case, we want to do it as a map. Once we select the map, you can see there's all kinds of settings for that map. So let's go ahead and dive into that really quick. We can set the map width, the map height. Only thing we're going to change here is we're going to change that zoom. We want to zoom way in since we're only looking at a single point on a map. We'll leave everything else the default value and click update. And then we'll go ahead and save this. And while here, let's go ahead and hide this label. I don't think we need a label for the latitude and longitude, for the map actually. So we'll click save. So now if we go back to content and select one of our camps, you can see instead of seeing the well-known text, we see a Google map. And this is a fully functional Google map that we can zoom in, zoom out, and see the exact address of our map. Similarly, the exact address of our camp, I should say. Taking a look at Drupal Camp St. Louis. Here's the location in University City outside of St. Louis for Drupal Camp St. Louis. All right, so in the next segment of this screencast, I'm going to demonstrate how to show all Drupal camps on a single map using views. Stay tuned. Alrighty, in the next part of this screencast, we are going to build a view that outputs a map that displays all of our Drupal camps. So in order to do that, obviously, we are going to need to enable the views module. So we need to enable the views module as well as obviously the views UI module. And click save. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and mosey on over to structure, views, and add new view. So we're going to go ahead and call this all Drupal camps. And we'll give it a description of displays all Drupal camp nodes. So we're going to show content of type Drupal camp. We're going to create a page. We'll leave the title and the path the same. For the display format, we're going to select Geofield Map. Now, Geofield Map is provided by the Geofield Map module. So not only does it provide a field formatter for the Geofield itself, but it also provides a views format of Geofield Map. So we're going to go ahead and select that. And items to display. Since we don't have that many, we're just going to display them all. So we'll put a 0 there. And to make it easy to find this page, we'll go ahead and create a menu link on the main menu for all Drupal camps. So we'll go ahead and click Continue and Edit to head over to the main views interface. Now, obviously, we can't display nodes on a map in a view unless the view has access to the latitude and longitude field for each of our nodes. So we're going to go ahead and add a field. And we're going to add the location, latitude, and longitude field. This one right here. We're going to apply that to all displays. Now this thing is, we don't need this output. We don't need to display the latitude and longitude. We can check off the exclude from display, knowing that the Geofield Map formatter will pick up these values as long as they're included in the list of fields. So the formatter, well-known text, is fine for this. Go ahead and use the full geometry since we're just doing points, and click Apply. All right, so let's make sure on a map it doesn't matter how they're ordered. So just for simplicity's sake, let's go ahead and get rid of the sort criteria. All right, so what are we outputting? We're outputting the title, the location, and we're sorting by, or we're filtering by only published Drupal camp nodes. Let's go ahead and add the body field as well, since we have a quick little description in there. So we'll add the body field. And we don't need a label for that. And we'll just do the summary or trimmed version of the body field. And click Apply. All right, so at this point, the only thing left to do is our settings for our map. So we're going to come up here next to our Geofield Map formatter. We're going to go ahead and click on Settings. So we need to select the data source. So which field in our view contains our geodata? In other words, which field contains the latitude and longitude? This is the whole point that we added the latitude and longitude field to the view so that we can select it right there. And then for the pop-up text, when someone clicks on one of those points, which field do we want to use? Let's just use the title field for now. And again, we have all of our map size and zoom settings. We'll just leave all of this stuff at the default values. Click Apply. I think everything looks pretty good for now. Let's go ahead and click Save. And by the way, the preview, the Geofield Map does not provide a preview. So we actually have to save and go out to the real page. So we'll go ahead and click Save. And we'll view the page now. And you can always view the page that you're looking at by clicking over here on the View Page link. This will take us to all Drupal camps, and now you see we've got a nice Google map with our Florida camp, a pin there, and our St. Louis camp, a pin there, and if we click on one of those, we can see the title. Well, it might be nice to see a little bit more information about the title, and we actually have that in the body field, but it's just not being displayed yet, so let's go ahead and add that real quick. So we're going to come back here to edit the view. All right, so what we want to do is we want to output in the pop-up box the title and the body. So what we're going to do is we're going to hide the title from display initially. And we're going to use the rewrite results functionality of the body field. We're going to rewrite the output of this field. And if we go to replacement patterns, we're basically going to show the title. We got that from right here. And then we'll do a little dash, and then we'll do the body, just like that. And apply all displays. And then the only other thing we have to do is change the map settings so that the pop-up text is coming from the body field now, because the body field now contains both the title and the body. Click apply, and click save. Come back to our map, and now when we click on one of these points, we see the name of the camp, followed by a dash, followed by the body text. Same thing there. So maybe the dash wasn't a great idea, but you get the idea. Alrighty. Well, that completes this section. In the next section of the screencast, the last section of the screencast, we're going to swap out the Geofield Map module in exchange for the leaflet module, which will provide us an alternative for mapping base layers to use rather than Google Maps. See you in a minute. Okay, in this last part of the X marks the spot demonstration, I'm going to show you how to swap out the Geofield Map module for the leaflet module. And actually, it's not really swapping it out. You can have both modules up and running at the same time. That's absolutely not a problem. They just provide two different formatters. So we're going to actually swap out the formatters. So the leaflet module actually requires a third-party JavaScript library called the leaflet JavaScript library or JavaScript mapping library. And you can download that from leafletjs.com. All of the instructions for installing the module and installing the library are included on the leaflet module page. But like most other third-party libraries, you're going to go ahead and install the leaflet JavaScript library in generally your site's all libraries leaflet directory. So that you'll put the leaflet library inside sites all libraries. Okay, so first let's go ahead and use leaflet to display this map. So obviously the first thing we have to do is go to our modules page and enable the leaflet module. So in this case, we're going to enable leaflet as well as leaflet more map and leaflet views. All four of these modules actually come with the leaflet module, so it's really only one download. So enable those three and click to save configuration. And we have to also enable Entity API, that's fine. Once the modules are enabled, let's make our way back to our view. So we'll click on all Drupal camps. And let's go ahead and click to edit that view. So what we're going to do here is we're going to change the format of our view from Geofield Map to a leaflet map. And then with that change, we have to revisit the settings for that formatter. So the data source, again, which field contains the latitude and longitude? In this case, there's only one, so it's pre-selected, our location lat long field. Where do we want the title to come from? You'll notice that the leaflet map has both a title field and descriptive content, so we can assign the title field to the title and the body field to the descriptive content. We might have to tweak the body field in a moment. But then we have this new option for the map. So which style map do we actually want to use? So as you can see, there's a good number of them here. Let's go ahead and select, let's find a good one. Well, let's actually go with the default, the OpenStreetMap one. It's an open source project to provide mapping base layers and mapping data. And we'll leave everything else the same, or default values, and hit apply. Go ahead and click to save the view. And we'll take a look at it and see what we think. So you can see the map definitely has a little bit of a different look to it. It's not a Google map anymore. It's now an OSM, an OpenStreetMap map. And it has similar functionality We can pan, we can zoom. I'm double clicking to zoom way in. And you can see that this exact same data is being used and the location of Florida Drupal camp has not changed. It's right next to a swamp, this being Florida. So let's go back, let's try a different base layer. So again, we'll go back and click to edit the view. And click settings. Let's choose, there's a really pretty one. It's not very useful for this particular use case, called Stamen Watercolor. This one right here. Let's go ahead and apply that one. And for certain applications, I can see where this would be a beautiful addition to one's website, where it doesn't provide a whole lot of detail. It just provides a very different looking map. It has some major roads, but it looks like it was actually drawn with watercolor. And as we zoom in, more roads appear, but you're never really going to get the detail you get on an OpenStreetMap or a Google map. So let's try one more. Again, edit view. In this case, let's go to an Esri World Street Map. And click Save. And again, it actually looks quite a bit like a Google map or an OpenStreetMap, but it's a little bit different, and depending on the style of your site, this might be more in line. Now, there are ways to have custom base layers. We're not going to get into that in this screencast, but if you do a little bit of Google searching, you could definitely find ways of designing your own base layer tiles. All right, well, that just about wraps up this screencast. Well, let me show you one more thing. I'm always doing that. So let's actually change. If we go to one of these and we go back to the main page, you'll see we're still using a Google map for our node displays. So let's change that really quick. So again, we're going to go to Structure, Content Types, Drupal Camp, Manage Display. And again, let's change the format from Geofield Map to leaflet, just like we did in the view. We come over here and change our settings, and again, we can select which type of map we want. Let's do there's a National Geographic one that's kind of fun. Leave everything else the same. You can explore these other options. You can set different icons for your points or different pop-up settings, all kinds of things. So let's save this. And let's go back and look at one of our camps and see what the National Geographic map looks like. And there you go. I remember looking at the National Geographic books when I was little, the big world atlases, and the maps looked very similar to this. So, kind of cool. Alrighty, so now we can wrap up this screencast. Again, this screencast covered how to display address information on maps within Drupal without writing a single line of code using some contributed modules. Now, in addition to this screencast, there's also a blog post with all of the details that I just showed you. So if you'd rather read rather than watch, you can. Well, you've already watched, so you can go read it as well. The URL is on your screen. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Mike Anello, and I am with DrupalEasy, and I will see you next time. Thank you.
If you need more formal Drupal training, consider DrupalEasy Academy. Case studies and our comprehensive catalog of courses, including the one-of-a-kind Drupal Career Starter Program, are available online at drupaleasy.com/training. DrupalEasy Academy, exceptional career, corporate, and community training for all Drupal skill levels. drupaleasy.com/training.